2.5 hours. We've been stood here for 2.5 hours in this bloody queue. Look, it's a passport control. Why have they just got 2 people on the desk? We've just landed a double-decker plane. And what? Did those people just come in and jump the queue? They've opened another desk. How we just... Unbelievable. Hello, Tony here. That was my attempt at acting, or really replicating my experience in Mauritius Airport when it did take best part of 2.5 hours to get through, and they did open a gate the other side and put everyone out, and we were stuck at the back again. So that was a genuine experience. Perhaps I did ham up the anger a little bit, but today I'm going to talk about travel generally, because it can be quite stressful. It used to be ridiculously stressful for me. I have, however, got a few tips I've picked up over the years where you can identify those pinch points and try and do a little bit of massaging or reframing to take that element of anger and frustration and annoyance away. None of us are perfect. There are always going to be challenges ahead, but I'm going to discuss some of the key aspects and also some of my experiences and how best to get from A to B without having an aneurysm. But before I do that, just a quick request to like and subscribe to my channel if you so desire. If not, no worries, no obligation. Anyway, so let's talk about stress. While I am not a neuroscientist by any means, the driver of a lot of anxiety and stress is cited as the amygdala part of our little brains. Yeah, this goes back to our primitive instincts when faced with a difficult situation of fight, flight, freeze, or hide. When it comes to travel, I think a large part of the driver of our anxiety is the cost of things. It is very expensive to go on holiday for a lot of people, and the idea of losing out or missing out on not catching your plane and all these things are really, really stressful. And we worry considerably about whether it's getting to the airport, getting through the airport, not getting allowed into the country. It just piles and piles and piles, and it is hard to shake off some of those feelings. So let's try and make the airport travel experience as zen as possible. It's worth stressing this isn't therapy. I'm not a therapist. Hey Tony, I don't know, lad, but all this shit, it's not your fault. This is just a way for me to share my background and experiences, and hopefully it can be useful. Let's start off with the first thing then. Now, I'm not going to focus on anything to do with bookings and all that kind of stuff. We're just focusing on the practicalities of the transit experience. So, the first thing I have for you is give plenty of time to arrive at the airport. That's pretty obvious. I remember when I was a lot younger, I would often get to the airport 4, sometimes 5 hours early out of absolute paranoia. You don't have to do that. I know they recommend 3 hours for a long haul flight and 2 hours for a short haul flight. The key here, though, for me is getting to the airport. I'd still recommend having a healthy buffer in terms of your timing of getting to the airport. But the key thing for me is planning out your routes in advance and, crucially, having a backup plan. Ordinarily, I prefer public transport, so usually getting to Heathrow, I will get a bus. There's a bus that runs from near our house straight to Heathrow. If I'm landing, often I will look for the public transport, where it's the the metro or a train line or something like that. But always having that backup plan of, say, a taxi is really good, because when things do go wrong, and they can go wrong, it can be a little bit panic inducing. I remember when we were going on safari to Kenya, I was on the aforementioned bus and it looked like it had broken down, and then it looked like there was going to be log jam traffic. I was panicking. Oh my God, we've got I've only got 3 hours left. We're going to miss the flight. We're going to miss our safari, and it's going to be terrible. Easy plan would have just been fine. It was fine actually. The bus started working and the traffic just dissipated, so we were able to go a different route. But having the back of my mind was like, okay, well, let's give it a bit of time, and I will book a taxi or call an Uber, and problem solved. So having that backup options pretty good. I've had the last other one, which was particularly stressful, was going from San Francisco. I thought, okay, fine. we'll get the metro. That's no problem. Actually, you know what? We'll treat ourselves to an Uber. So order the Uber, and no, and one of those things. Perhaps you've all had it where they just keeps cancelling. It keeps cancelling. It doesn't turn up. So like, okay, fine. I'll just get the metro. I've given it enough time. No problem at all. But none of the card readers on the ticket machine were working, and for cash, they just wanted the exact change, which ordinarily would be fine, but I only had a $50 note, so I was frankly going around the shops trying to find something to buy to give me the exact change in order to buy the ticket. Fortunately, there was a very friendly barista in Starbucks who didn't mind handing over a ton of change just for buying a single espresso. But I was pretty panicky then. So the lesson is see what the best option is to get to the airport via public transport, but always make sure you have a backup plan and plenty of either loose cash or a card or an alternative way of payment. Otherwise, you risk being stranded, not able to get to your airport, and miss your flight and all the repercussions with that. So my second one is once we get to the airport, hopefully we've got there stress free and in plenty of time and no worries at all. It's the check-in lines. Now, if you are lucky enough to have status or flying business class, this doesn't tend to be much of a problem. The lines in business class check-in or first class check-in and so on are a lot quicker on the whole. Unless, of course, you are going on European flights where they can obviously just have one Club Europe, one business class, and one for everybody else. This can be frustrating because I know the amount of times that I have queued in these lines in the airports, and it seems to have taken forever. Ibiza was particularly bad because there was what it must have been at least an hour and a half queuing up, and that was in business class check-in. And it's always weird because when I go up, it's like passport, yeah, thanks, off you go. So it takes me 20 seconds. I have no idea how some of these people are spending 10, 15, 20 minutes, whether I guess it's the documents or the baggage. So the problem is obviously you're standing there, you've got nowhere to sit, and it's frustrating. One tip on those European ones it works better on is to put, maybe if you're traveling as a couple, is put one of you in one of the queues, one of you in the other. So whichever one gets there first, you can just switch over. The other thing is that it's more than likely going to be an issue or a problem with the person, with the traveler. So the person on the desk is only doing their job. They're doing it as fast as they can and they're doing it to the best of their ability. They're not doing it to spite you. They're not doing it to make you angry and frustrated. So just take a step back and go, okay, here's a problem. If I was the person where there was a document problem or a glitch in the system and I was trying to get it sorted out, I know I would be very concerned. So maybe if we see a little bit more pragmatic like that, you can not get so wound up, but it is frustrating. We then move on from check in to the security. Now, going through security can be a little bit daunting. On a practical level, once again, the lines can be quite long. So, if you do have fast track, that's a nice little perk. But I think the best way to de stress security is to prepare. Be prepared, as the last Boy Scout once said. And why do you need to be prepared? Because of the security inconsistencies. I know it is still to this day really frustrating. Some places will make you take your laptop or phone out. Some places will make you take your shoes off. Some do your belts. So there's such inconsistency around. So that's where the planning for the worst case scenario comes into force. So what I like to do is take all my wallet, keys, and all that sort of stuff, and put it into my jacket pockets or into my bag. If I do that in advance, I'm not faffing around at the security gate trying to sort that out. Likewise, if you're taking liquids, have that already out, ready to go, so you can just plop it onto the conveyor belt. No worries at all. The other thing I think is shoes, because sometimes, obviously, if they say take your shoes off, having a nice, comfortable pair of slip-ons, moccasins, or whatever you want, you just slip them straight off, put them on the conveyor belt, boom, straight the way through. So yeah, if you do that little bit of prep work for the security check, then you're going to get through a lot smoother and a lot quicker. And when they sometimes do pull you over for no reason, don't get spooked. I've been pulled over quite a few times. I don't know whether sometimes it's just random or just the computer says just check that person or there's something suspicious in my bag, which it never was. then don't worry about it. They're usually quite fine, collect, polite, and will just hand you your bag back and ask you a few questions. Also, you'll find that there will be a bit of a sometimes a log jam at the end where you pick up the tray with all your stuff in. Don't sit there getting frustrated. If people are there, just pick up your tray and try and just walk off to an area where it's not so congested. I mentioned earlier how having status with an airline can help, certainly when it comes to check in and fast track security. This is probably one of the best ones, which is the lounges. So once you get through all that, you're in the airport, you can go shopping, you can go sit in the concourse where there's a ton of people pushing and barging. But if you can get into a lounge, that is generally speaking going to be a lot more relaxing, a lot more tranquil, a lot less intense than going out into the main airport itself. Obviously, if you don't have status, you can purchase a ticket to get into various lounges, various Aspira lounges, and so on. Otherwise, I would probably try and find a quiet spot. For example, finding a gate that's not in use and having a sit around that area, read a book, listen to some music, or whatever. But I think being away from that intense kind of central airport pressure is a good way to just ease yourself before you get onto the flight. And now let's talk about the gate lice. I don't really like that term. I don't tend to use it. In fact, that's the first time I've ever used it, but I've read a couple of things referring to gate lice. These are the people that are always congregating around the boarding area, despite them not being priority boarding. They could be in bloody boarding group Z, and they're all still crowded around there. So this is super annoying, certainly if you have priority. However, an easy way around that is first of all, travel light. Don't take on a cabin bag. So you're not stressing about putting the luggage over your head. Just wait till the end. Wait till the end. If you've got your seat, you've got your space, no problem at all. Why do you need to get on there early? Maybe if you're flying business or premium economy, you get a little bit of champagne or sparkling wine first. But is there any reason for you to get on this plane first? Is there any reason for you to get all het up and argy bargy and pushing people out the way to try and get on first? No, if they want to do that, that's fine. Just sit there, relaxed. When everyone's boarded, just waltz onto the plane, sit down, and you're ready to go. I should say that, but I forgot to add. Also, there are times when you're not ready to go, isn't it? When you get delays, and these are some of the most grinding situations. I know for me, I'm sure about you, if you sit on the app and it's just like delayed, delayed, expected time is this, that, the other, delayed, and they fluctuate up and down. It's like a game of bloody roulette, isn't it? It's like, no, it's gone back to being on time. No, it's gone back to being this. So these are generally just par for the course. You've got to roll with it. You can't control it. So again, if you are in the lounge, maybe have another glass of champagne. Or if you are in the concourse, read another chapter of your book. I will add that that's for your run of the mill delays. When you have big delays, this is when the understanding of your rights and your the obligations of the airline are important. I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice at all. But I'll give you a couple of the examples that happened to me. So when we were in South Africa, we were all ready to board the plane, and it flashed up saying plane delayed, but be landing an hour early. It's like, well, hang on, how can the plane's delayed, but we're landing an hour early? Well, the fact was it'd actually been delayed by 23 hours because a pilot was not found. They were phoned in sick and there was no backup. So what happened was in the British Airways, people actually put us on towards a plane, got us back off the airport. They took us to a hotel. They paid for the hotel. They gave us vouchers for the dinner. So all that was fine. All that was taken care of. You will generally expect this, and you will receive this sort of treatment with an isolated incident where it's one off flight delay or cancellation. The holiday company will take care of you because they're duty bound to take care of you. However, sometimes there's not the one off incident. Sometimes there's the big incidents when the volcano erupts, or the air traffic control system melts down, or someone pulls the plug out somewhere and the world bloody collapses. No, my experience of that was we were in Newcastle for the 2023 August bank holiday when the air traffic control system decided to shut down. We were actually on the plane and we sat on that plane for 2 hours waiting for the announcement. People then get very stressed as I've got to go to a funeral, I've got to do a wedding, I've got to do X, Y, Z. Again, this is it's not an act of God, is it? It's an act of something. But this is way beyond the control of the airline. This is something that just cannot be dealt with on a practical level. How do we do this? So they try their best. In that scenario, this is what we did. We got off the aeroplane and we thought, this is a meltdown. There's no way we're going to get on a plane today. Maybe not even tomorrow. So I checked the trains. Weren't any running. They were all booked. So I booked a hotel and train tickets for the next day. Because what you can do, you don't necessarily see this on the websites, but if you're in that situation, just go, just take care of yourself. Just take care of yourself. Take the hit when it comes to the expenses because they will refund you. So there is a section. So in this case, it was British Airways. There was a section where you can go in. You can explain what happened. You can put in all your receipts. So that's receipts for the trains, for the hotel, for food. Uh, they say no alcohol, so just be aware that don't go on a complete bender and expect the air company to pay for it. But generally speaking, when you have that big stuff that you can't control, I would just say do take control for yourself. Do right. I need to make sure that I have a hotel, I have a transport, I have food, everything taken over, and come up with an alternative plan. Because I think for me, if I'd just been flapping around in Newcastle and hadn't been proactive, because I saw people go into the BA counter and the poor woman had no idea, and she couldn't have the power to book a ton of hotels absolutely everyone because it wasn't just her; it was every other flight. So make sure you take control and you are focused and you think right, calm head, think this thing through, take care of ourselves. How's the best way to get home, and worry about the additional cost later. I have already done a video on air travel etiquette, so I'll just put a link in here. So I'm not going to go into huge details about air rage and how to treat your fellow passengers and cabin crew. So things like kicking backs of chairs, reclining, being rude to people, clicking your fingers, pressing the attendant call button just to whine at somebody. I would say common sense. I know that sort of airplane environment can be very stressful because you're contained and everything's sort of enhanced, but stay calm, be polite to people. So if someone does knock the back of your chair, just say, I'm terribly sorry. I think you may be uh, sort of kicking the back of my chair. Or if someone reclines, or if you are reclining yourself, you say, oh, actually, sorry, would you mind awfully? I'm just planning to go to sleep in case they're starting to eat dinner. I know there's a huge debate on whether you should tell people you're reclining or not, but what's the worst that's going to happen? Not a lot. So yeah, just be nice to people and be patient and try not to get too irritated for those little irritations that seem to be multiplied to 1,000 degrees when you're in the air. So you've had a nice relaxing flight. Yeah, no one's bothered you. You've not been perturbed by anything. Maybe you've had a glass of wine and champagne, watched a film, read a book, had a snooze, all those pleasant things. So you're now relaxed, zen, ready to go. All we've landed. Of course, it's the fun and frolics of disembarking, which can descend into something of a rugby scrum with people smashing into you, like barging past, trying to get their bags off first, and all this kind of thing. Now, I've kind of come up with a rule for this over the years. Very simple question, which is, do you think you're going to get your bags first from the luggage conveyor? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter because I think an extra 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's not the end of the world. There's no immediate rush to get in. And what I find also quite funny is you see sometimes those people that are really keen to get off the plane before everybody else. And the moment they're off the plane, they're shuffling along like a bloody zombie from The Walking Dead. So why are you in such a rush if you're then going to walk really slow and people overtake you? So yeah, the usual etiquette is obviously get up by seat row, and if someone is really that keen to get past, then just let them. Because maybe they're not doing it to be obnoxious. They could also be running late to get a connection. They could be off somewhere important, a family event or something, and they are going to miss their flight. So you can put yourself in their shoes. So now the callback to the start of this video, which is passport control. That story in Mauritius is painful. I still regurgitate that quite often as an example of a particularly tortuous time, and being wedged in all those people and not being able to get to the toilet, well, without having to sort of crawl under various things and push past all the different people in the various lines. So yeah, passport control is going to potentially be. I've always found it's one or the other. Either it's really long and boring and painful, particularly places like Frankfurt. So European generally, but obviously Frankfurt Airport has been particularly frustrating because they have the queue for the EU and then the non-EUs, and since Brexit they put us into non-EUs. But hang on, they've got Taiwan on the EU, so you can use the e-gate if you're from Taiwan or the UAE or South Korea, but they don't let the UK citizens use it, even though it works. So that's me giving you a glimpse of that frustration that I need to get rid of. Anyway, so passport control usually is either a big long queue, or for some reason you just walk straight through. And it's good when you do walk straight through because no particular stress. However, when it is one of those slow, drawn out queues that are taking a long time, it is very, very annoying. There is nothing you can do about this. And the way I try and keep myself calm is to say, this is one of the worst places to get annoyed. So if I'm queuing up for a long time and I get through to the passport control person and I say something grouchy or snarky or mean, they can obviously waltz me out into the security room and spend hours, days interrogating me or just deport me. So you don't want that at all. So, okay, let's just sit there and think this is taking a bit of time, but at least my bags will be there. So I won't be waiting at the bag conveyor belt for much longer. I'll just be able to get straight through this and then on the get my bag and then go. So that's a good way to do it, but definitely don't get too wound up in the passport control queue, even if you're there for 2.5 hours. And speaking of baggage reclaims, why, oh, why do people all rush and congregate around the centre of the baggage, all the way around right by the rim of it? You can't see your bags, you can't get your bags. The logical thing is just to all take a few steps back, wait till you see your bag, walk up, pick it up, and go. So I have zero idea why people do it. It's super annoying. It doesn't make your bag get there any quicker. It doesn't really make you get there out of the airport any quicker. So I usually try to either just take a step back and wait, or if people do, they always, for some reason, congregate around where the bags come out. Maybe just go around to the other side and wait. Or if you're feeling a little bit annoyed, then maybe you can give a little bit of a push or nudge to get through to your bags. But I also get a little bit worried because I see so many kids nowadays running around and actually right at that centres, and you kind of think there's lots of big bags, and somebody could actually do some pretty pretty bad damage to a small fragile child, which would be obviously very sad, and I wouldn't want that, especially even to the annoying kids, even to the annoying ones. So yeah, baggage reclaim is also another point that can be rather annoying. But let's say we've waited an extra 5 minutes, extra 30 seconds for the bag to roll around to the other side and got that. That 30 seconds, I'm not sure has made much difference to my holiday. Still, we're now good to go. Bags collected and ready to transfer to my hotel to enjoy my vacation. The issue then is a bit like getting to the airport. We have the same challenge getting from the airport to the hotel, exactly the same solution as well. So have a look at the various different options, see which one's the cheapest, the fastest, and always then have a backup plan because I've done this a few times when you've come along to somewhere, oh, I'm going to get the train. No, the train's not running. Fine. I'll grab a taxi. And also, another little tip I always like to do is go into Uber or any other ride hailing app you want. And before you go, and just check. So just change where your location is to, say, the airport and the hotel, and just have a check to see how much Uber would be charging for that. That gives you a nice ballpark figure. Anyway, so those are some of my attempts to reframe holiday stress. So we turn the distress into a nice, relaxing, calm experience. And I find that you will enjoy your holidays a little bit more if you are able to get through the airport, get through the travel experience without getting too frustrated or wound up. Because sometimes the journey is actually a big part of the holiday. And if you can make that journey as pleasant and enjoyable as you can. Certainly for me, people say to me, "Oh, there's a long flight. You're going on a long flight for 5 nights or whatever. It's a 9, 10 hour flight." I actually use that time on the aeroplane to relax. So it's like, okay, I'm here now, and I know actually you can get Wi-Fi on planes and all that sort of stuff. But generally speaking, I can't get distracted by necessarily emails or by work or by anything else. I can just sit here and I can read a book. I can just have a little bit of a meditation. I can watch a film. I can do anything I like, and that's a good quality thinking space for me and relaxing time to enjoy. So, what really grates for you when it comes to the travel experience? Have I missed anything off? Is there something specific, or do you have your own little issue that you just drives you absolutely bonkers? Please do let me know in the comments below. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. And I hope, a bit like me, you're able to suppress the frustration and at least put on a brave face or a grimace and get through it anyway. And if, like me, you do want to enjoy some quality time in the air, you can always check out my video on air travel etiquette, what to do and what not to do on a plane.